Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I bring you 3 chilling tales hidden behind the colorful eggs and joyful bunnies of Easter. Story 1. A family in Ohio found more than candy in their backyard egg hunt, one egg filled with razor blades planted by a disturbed neighbor. Story 2. A child vanished during a church event, only to be found hours later in the basement with strange symbols drawn in chalk around him. Story 3. A man in a bunny costume roamed suburban streets, offering eggs to children, later revealed to be a wanted fugitive. Easter is often imagined as a time of rebirth, joy, and innocence, a springtime celebration of life, color, and tradition. Children dash across green lawns with wicker baskets in hand, eyes wide with excitement, searching for candy-filled eggs tucked beneath bushes or nestled in flower beds. Families gather around tables adorned with pastel decorations, laughter echoing as chocolate bunnies disappear into delighted mouths. Churches hold sunrise services that speak of resurrection and hope, and parks bloom with festivities meant to capture the magic of renewal. But beneath this cheerful surface, there are shadows, a quiet, unsettling distortions of these cherished rituals that speak to something deeper, something darker. In the heart of a quiet Ohio suburb, a family prepared for their annual Easter egg hunt. The backyard was carefully set, plastic eggs scattered between tufts of grass, some filled with jelly beans, others with small toys. Laughter rang out as children scrambled to collect them, calling out to one another with giddy excitement. But the joy was abruptly cut short when one child, a 7-year-old girl named Lily, screamed. Her tiny hands were cut and bleeding. Inside the egg she had opened were several small, curved razor blades, clean and glinting in the sunlight. Panic spread through the crowd of parents and children. Authorities were called. The hunt halted. What was intended to be a harmless tradition had turned into a moment of horror. As the investigation unfolded, suspicion fell on a neighbor, a man known for keeping to himself, whose front yard remained untouched by springtime cheer. He denied involvement, but a search revealed disturbing evidence: more altered eggs, blades carefully inserted, as well as a journal with erratic scribbles about cleansing the holiday of its lies. The community was shaken. Parents, once eager to let their children roam freely on Easter morning, now held them close, eyes scanning every corner of the yard with dread. The ritual of the egg hunt had been tainted, transformed into a symbol of betrayal. What had been a source of delight was now laced with distrust. Elsewhere, in a small town in the Midwest, a church hosted its annual Easter Sunday event. Children sang songs in their pastel outfits, participated in crafts, and were led on a treasure hunt through the church grounds. But as the morning turned into afternoon, one boy, 8-year-old Marcus, was nowhere to be found. Panic swept through the congregation. Volunteers searched every room, every hallway. Hours passed before he was finally discovered in the cold, dim basement of the church, sitting cross-legged inside a crude circle of chalk symbols. He was unharmed, silent, and wide-eyed, as if under a trance. The symbols surrounding him were strange, some resembling ancient runes, others resembling eyes, spirals, and cryptic markings that no one could identify. No adult admitted to taking him there. Surveillance footage showed Marcus wandering off, but what happened afterward raised more questions than answers. When asked about the experience, Marcus described being led by the Whispering Bunny, a figure he claimed spoke to him in rhymes and riddles. Psychologists were brought in. Investigators examined the basement. A small wooden door, previously assumed to be sealed shut, had been opened. Behind it, they found a narrow crawlspace and remnants of old children's toys, some decades older, covered in dust and cobwebs. Parishioners whispered rumors. Some said the church had been built on old farmland, with a history no one wanted to revisit. Others believed Marcus had simply gotten lost and his imagination had filled in the rest. But the chalk symbols, so carefully drawn, remain unexplained. They were too precise, too intentional. Services continued the following Sundays, but the basement was locked, the door sealed, and Easter events quietly scaled back. Parents now hesitated when sending their children alone in the church hallways. Even faith, once seen as a shield, felt fragile. And then, in a well-manicured suburb just outside of Portland, families began noticing something odd in the weeks leading up to Easter. A man dressed in a bunny costume appeared on sidewalks and playgrounds. At first, he seemed harmless, a quirky adult perhaps hired to promote a local store or entertain at a party. He handed out eggs to children, waved at passing cars, and danced clumsily to silent tunes only he seemed to hear. But something about him was off. He never spoke, his costume was dirty, the fur around the eyes stained. When approached by adults, he would walk away quickly, vanishing between houses or slipping into wooded areas. Then came the reports. A mother found her daughter clutching a note folded inside a plastic keg written in strange, cryptic handwriting. It read, "The bunny waits where laughter dies." Another child told her father that the bunny had whispered her name before placing an egg in her hand and walking away. Authorities were alerted. Local news picked up the story. Eventually, the man was apprehended near a school. His identity stunned the community. He was a fugitive, wanted for multiple offenses in other states, including the abduction of minors. He had traveled under the radar, using the Easter costume as a disguise, blending into the festive season as a harmless character. Neighbors were horrified. Parents felt betrayed by their own willingness to trust a symbol that, for generations, had been associated with innocence and fun. How could a figure as absurd as a man in a bunny suit become the vessel for real-world horror? The line between tradition and deception had blurred, and the community would never look at Easter the same way again. These stories, while isolated and extreme, illuminate a deeper truth about the nature of comfort and tradition. Rituals like Easter are rooted in repetition and trust. They evoke childhood memories, reinforce community bonds, and offer a sense of normalcy. But it is within this very normalcy that darkness can nestle undetected. The familiarity of the pastel colors, the smiling mascots, and the joyful songs can become masks, concealing the intentions of those who wish to disrupt, harm, or simply unsettle. When the veil of celebration is pulled back, we sometimes find that danger does not always announce itself with thunderclaps or horror movie music. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in a candy-colored shell,